What's up, Scratchers? Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a paddle game. Let me just show you how this plays. So what I have to do is move the player down here and catch this green ball that falls down from the top of the screen. So I'm using the arrow keys to move, and if I let the ball touch the ground, I lose. So we're going to be making this today. Pretty easy to follow along. Yeah, so let's get started. And the first thing we're going to do is delete this sprite 1. We won't be needing that in this tutorial. Then we're going to click on backdrops, click on convert to bitmap, and click on the paint bucket tool. I'm going to click on this color, and I'm going to select a color for the background. I'm going to choose a light brown tannish color. And then once I like that color, I'm going to click in the center of the screen to fill it in. And now I have my background. Let's create the ball that will fall down from the sky. Let's mouse over, choose a sprite, and click on paint. Or if you wanted to, you could just click here and choose from a list of objects that fall. But I'm going to draw mine. I'm going to click on the circle tool, and I'm going to select a green color, something that stands out from the background, and I'm just going to draw it like that. And over here you'll see that my circle is a little too big, so let's make it a little bit smaller. I think that is good. Then we're going to move the circle, and you'll see this crosshair pop up on the screen. I'm just going to snap it right into the center. Now let's rename the sprite to ball, and let's create the code that will make it fall down. I'm going to click on code, and I'm going to click on the motion tab, and you'll see this list of blocks over here. The one we're going to drag out is change y by 10. What change y by 10 does is move the sprite up or down. So if I click on change y by 10, you'll see that the ball is moving up. And if I want it to move down, I could change this to -10, and you'll see it's moving down. Awesome. So what we want to do is we want the ball to start at the top of the screen and then move down until it reaches the bottom. And then when it touches the bottom, if the player hasn't caught the ball, we want the game to end. Let's click on Control and drag out the block repeat until. This block will run the code inside of it until this condition is true. Let's click on Operators and drag out less than 50. Inside of 50, I'm going to type -170 or -170. And let's click on Motion and drag out Y position. The Y position is this value you see right here. You'll see if I move the ball up, the Y position changes. And if I set it to 0, the ball will move to the center of the screen. This code right here will run until the ball is all the way at the bottom of the screen. So we want the ball to move down. Let's drag change Y by -10 inside of there. And let's move the ball to the top of the screen. And let's click on this code. Awesome, so you'll see the ball moves down until it reaches the bottom of the screen. So once we reach the bottom of the screen, well, we want the game to end. For now, let's click on Control and drag out Stop All, which will stop the game. We also want the game to restart once we press the green flag. So let's click on Events, drag out When Green Flag Clicked, click on Motion, and drag out Set Y, and inside of here, I'm going to type 180. If I click on this code, you'll see the ball moves all the way to the top of the screen. We also want the ball to move to a random position, either left or right, so it doesn't always fall down from one spot. We can do this by dragging out the block Set Y2. If I type in 0, the ball will move to the center of the left and right axis. If I type in 240, it moves to the right. And if I type in -240, it moves all the way to the left. So set X2 controls the movement left or right. We want to set this to a random position, so let's connect these. Let's click on operators and drag out, pick random 1 to 10. In here, let's type in -240 and 240. Now, when we press this code, the ball will move to a random position at the top of the screen. Then, let's click on control and drag out this forever block, and I'm just going to snap it around this repeat until and put it at the bottom. You'll see why we use this forever loop later. So let's press play, and you'll see the ball moves to the bottom of the screen. Next, we need to create the player that will catch the ball. Let's mouse over choose a sprite and click on paint. And I'm going to click on the rectangle tool this time. I'm going to select maybe a reddish color. And let's draw a little long rectangle at the bottom of the screen. And I'm just going to move this around and measure it and see how big it is compared to the ball. I don't want it too big or else the ball will be too easy to catch. So we make it a little bit smaller. And I think that's about it. Now let's center the rectangle by moving it onto the crosshair, and it'll snap just like that. I'm going to rename this to player. And now let's make the code so that the player moves left and right. Let's click on motion, and the block we're going to drag out is change x by 10. This block will make the player move to the right when we click on it. And if I wanted it to move to the left, I would change this to -10. We're going to control the player with the arrow keys. Let's click on sensing and drag out key space pressed. I'm going to click on the down arrow and choose left arrow. If the left arrow is pressed, then we want to change x by -10. There's a block called an if statement. I'm going to click on control and drag out if then. And let's snap key left arrow pressed inside of that triangle. Now let's snap change x by -10 inside of here. What this code means is if the left arrow is pressed, then we move to the left. To make this code run whenever we press the left arrow, let's first drag a forever loop over it so it runs forever. Then click on events and drag out when green flag clicked. Let's press the green flag, and I press the left arrow, the player will move to the left. And you'll see when the ball hits the ground, the player stops moving. Now, let's make the same code, but the player will move to the right when we press the right arrow. So, let me go to control, drag out if then, click on sensing, drag out key space pressed, and I'm going to choose right arrow. Let's go to motion and drag out change x by 10, which will move the player to the right. So let's press the green flag, and you'll see I can move around. Next, we want the player to be able to catch the ball so we don't lose the game. Let's click on the ball sprite, and let's click on control and drag out if then. We want to detect if the ball has touched the player. We'll click on sensing, and there is this block called touching mouse pointer. I'll put that inside of here. Let's click on a down arrow, and from this list I'm going to choose player. So the code inside of here will run if we are touching the player. Well, if we're touching the player, we want the ball to move back up to the top and start falling again. So we're going to use this code up here, set y to 180, and set x to pick random. So I don't have to remake this code again. There is this handy feature called copy. I'm going to right click, press duplicate, and you'll see it made a clone of the code we just made. And we don't need this forever loop, so let's just drag it into here to delete it. And I'm going to drag the set y to 180 inside of here. We're going to then drag this whole chunk of code and put it right under change y by -10. So when we move down, we check if we are touching the player. If we are, then we reset the position. And if we're not touching the player and we're at the bottom of the screen, we end the game. So you'll see when the ball touches the player, the ball moves back to the top of the screen. In the next tutorial, we'll be adding a score and a game over screen.